Okay, there's the three Facebooks. And there's YouTube. So we are live on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to play a quick intro, and then we're going to be right back. We're going to allow people time to come in because there was another mix-up on Todd's end, but that's okay, and everything's all right. 1 second. Okay. So we'll be back in 1 minute and 19 seconds. Hello, everybody. Had a little mix-up. I'm sorry that that I'm 47 minutes late, but it's been a big week. There's been some powerful divine feminine stepping up and aligning on the show, and the show's just a reflection of what's going on in the collective. So, and the crazy thing was, I usually have an hour between shows, and so I had what do we have this morning? Amanda Lawrence and Judith Kuzel. So I had those two. I had an hour between them, and then I had 3 hours before Mary came on. And I thought, oh man, I can't wait to talk to Mary again. I had all these questions developing in my head, and then we had a disconnect on my end. But anyway, she was a great sport about it. And here we are. Welcome, Mary. Thank you for coming in late. Typical Soulology fashion. And we don't mind showing our soul, but sometimes we show our posterior.
A pleasure.
Yeah. Wow. So this week has been really incredible. I've been talking about it Monday, Tuesday, we couldn't get any shows off. And so it was Monday and Wednesday. And so one of the things that happened was on Tuesday, not just with me, but it seems like with everybody, some kind of major energy came in that just affected everyone across the board. I've never seen anything like it. People were talking about the electronics going off. They were talking about anything planned and scheduled didn't go down. A lot of things with the body, and then a lot of statements being made directly by women, saying we are fully in our power. The divine feminine is fully in its power, and I don't know. Everybody's intel seems to be kind of aligning with that, being said different ways. But are you privy to anything from any of your connections, or have you noticed anything that's gone on in the last few days?
Certainly, actually, to me, the shift is well and truly with us now. And I've never been so busy. You were talking about the craziness of what's going on right now. And I cannot believe the numbers of people that are having extraordinary things happen to them, and major shifts, downloads, feeling like the veils are thinning to an extent, being very confronting for a lot of people, and they're trying to handle it and trying to deal with it and saying, I've got to understand what's going on, Mary, because I'm feeling so what's the word, almost unstable with it, because it has been so powerful. And I don't know whether I mentioned to you, Todd, a few weeks ago, I was speaking to a 10-year-old who has interactions with light beings, and said that he comes from the planet of light himself. And he explained that on that planet, everything was instantly manifests. And he said the trouble is with Earth, he said it takes it's a bit more of a game, he said, to manifest on this planet. But I asked him about what was going on now. And he basically said to me, Mary, this is the reset.
Wow.
This is so you can make of that what you will, but for him, it was the reset to the shift.
Yes, and there in like in the last 3 or 4 days, there seems to be like if there's a demarcation line, if there's a point, well, if there's one coming, to me, it's going to be bigger than what happened. But there was clearly something went down, and it was so funny because yesterday morning, the first show, I forgot the first show. I didn't see it on the schedule, and I scheduled everybody else's for the next couple of days. So this lady came on from Germany with a German accent and living in Scotland, got called to Scotland. And I was so rushed to get on because I was 30 minutes late. And so she came on, and I didn't even say hello to her. I just said, what is going on? I don't even know this lady. I'd never met her. And she said in her broken English, she was like, well, I don't know, but I think the divine feminine just jumped on a effing rocket and got shot into the stars. And she kind of went, and is in her full power. And it was so funny and so childlike, but it was also so profound. So whether it's the metaphor of that, or it's even however you want to look at the energy, to feminine and masculine, or positive and negative, or magnetics, or whatever, something shifted it. And when I saw that metaphor that she spoke about, I thought to myself, this isn't game on, this is game over. This can't be stopped now. So when you say, that we're in this thing, like we're in this thing, there's no going back.
Yeah, exactly. And that is what I think people are feeling, is that whole shift from one level of awareness to a whole new level of awareness. And the power that means in terms of us as a species getting the balance, finally getting some balance to this planet. And I think that is well, everyone can feel it. Anyone who's not not passed on can feel it, because you can't help but feel it.
Yes. And I'm just wondering how long, regardless of what's being presented on the global stage and what's coming from mainstream media and whoever wants to talk about, and I don't discount anybody's reality. I have no opinion, conspiracy, disclosure, 1%, whatever it is. I can't see that for very long that those actors could ignore this energy. Like, I think at some point they'd have to say, hey, we're just like you guys. We don't know what the hell's going on. Something like that. Or here's what we know. I don't think the disclosure is going to be about secret space. And I mean, it is, but I mean, and all these things have been hidden from us. I think it's a surprise on everyone and anyone on the earth, because it is such a personal transformation that's driving the whole thing. It's like you have less and less time to look around at anything external.
Yeah. And for me, there were significant dates that I was given by a number of people, and was in February. The next one I was told was June. There's something about June, and also December. So I really feel this is just the start.
Yes.
Of this acceleration.
Yes.
Really, and many people are going to feel very, despite what's being said on the planet about all the usual stuff, this is to do with a whole new frequency, a whole new awareness that's happening. And on the ground level, it's people waking up to seeing beyond the veil, to seeing what's going on, to uncovering that dream time that we've all been in for so long. That's now shifting in incredible speed. Yeah. And I was told when I was asking about this to my own team, sort of saying, well, people are talking about an event, what is that? What is it? Can I get a sense of it? And the whole thing was no, because you at this moment actually comprehend
right
what it is, because you know, my understanding was too limited. That's what came to me about it.
Yeah, I would think anybody's is. And that's what I was saying about, so-called world leaders or people that we, hear about or that, put out the information or propaganda or whatever. I think at some point that they would just, be like, okay. I mean, nobody is escaping, you know? I mean, I would even go so far to say that obviously is affecting the animals and all life, all kingdoms, but I would go so far to say that there's a strong possibility it's affecting the non-physical part of our experience, to include whatever that is. Like and maybe even star family, like if you said, Arcturians, do you know what's going down? No, because it's such a huge, new development. I mean, it's just, how can you comprehend that? I don't think any of us has any idea what can happen here.
Yeah. And it may be that this is the new timeline that we're experiencing now.
Yeah.
This is, and that would be an event in itself.
Yes.
But I still get the sense that there's more.
Oh, yeah.
There's more ahead of us.
Well, your two dates, or those, I can't remember the first month, but I remember talking to certain people that come on here that kind of forecast a little bit. I remember them either saying February or March, and I can't remember, but they definitely say June and December. Like Franco De Nicolas has said all since the end of last year, when we get to June, it's going to be like mind blowing. And I just had him on a week ago. And because May is so intense, and this is before this week, I didn't even ask him about June, because I feel like May is in itself is a huge, if not a huge transformation, it's a huge preparation for whatever June's bringing.
One of the interesting things that was sent to me recently was from a lady in Brazil who her 10-year-old son was talking about these beings he was interacting with that look humanoid but like butterflies, and he was in
oh my God,
beings that look like these butterflies, as say blue humanoid with the wings. And she said, interestingly, at the same time he was talking about this interaction with them, he was talking about this awakening. And there was a crop circle in the Netherlands that was this butterfly being in a crop circle, which was at the same time he was talking about these beings that he was interacting with that were teaching him. And fascinatingly for me, and very symbolically, around where I live, for the last 3 weeks, we've had clouds of butterflies, almost like, we've been in one of these butterfly farms, clouds of them everywhere.
Wow.
Last 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh my God. It's amazing how information is being passed on to each other. And I think this might be part of the new timeline, and I'll tell you why. Because the linear is not involved. When I woke up 8 or 9 years ago, everything was about butterfly angels. They came to me, and butterflies, right? And it was a huge deal. And the butterfly thing was a huge part of my lineage. Like I worked with them or something. I don't know. So then fast forward, I meet Morgan and in 2015, and she's told me a couple of times. It was either right before she woke up or right after, I can't remember, but it was about 20 years ago. She went to an expo, and it was the first time she'd ever went, with healers and, all this stuff, right? So she walked in, she saw this man, 30-ish, 35 years old, and she kind of took him in, then went around the whole thing and decided she wanted to sit down with this guy. Now he drew a picture and then he told whatever came to him. So she sits down with him, gives him 20 Australian, and he starts to tell her that she came here to assist women, and I may get this part wrong, sorry honey, but assist women in healing. I think particularly sexual power, that type of thing. But the interesting thing was, he said, you are from such and such planet, and he drew a picture of her and it was a humanoid butterfly blue. So what I'm saying is, as you said that, I thought, wow, so this is how it works, like past, present, future merge. So even though that sounds like three different kind of streams, it's really all in one. And the sharing of the information, I think, actually opens up code in people. That's just my opinion.
That's fascinating, because I've got the drawings that he did of the beings,
Oh,
and
wow.
butterfly beings, and the room that he was in, and the other butterfly beings. But it was, for her, it was so synchronous with the crop circle in the Netherlands, with this butterfly being at the same time. And he was indicating, this is all about the awakening. This is all about the shift. And I don't normally go into my dreams a little bit, but I just want to say this bit, that I'm getting a lot of lucid dreaming now. I'm remembering the dreams a great deal. And one of the interesting ones is where I'm in this so-called hospital, and I'm going there to have a baby. I'm often with little kids, or I'm having another baby or something. But this baby I knew couldn't be born the normal way, which is interesting. I knew it had to be different. But I went there and I said, I'm registering now, and I'm cutting this really short. But she says, she goes, this is the receptionist. Oh, you're the one that needs the crystals, she goes. So I said, and I remember thinking in my dream, oh, she's very aware. And then she says, here you are, here's your crystals. They've got to go to your hand. And they were quartz crystals. And she embeds them in my hand like this, these 5 crystals. And says, there you are. Now you can go to the ward to have your baby, which I knew was not going to be born in the normal way. It was, that something had to happen. And I remember thinking, so, okay, so what's this all about? And to me, there are lots of things that go with that. But one of them is that the codes, the crystalline, yes, for me was but the birth of something new in a different kind of way was the interesting thing for me. And this was only a couple of weeks ago. I remember, and it was funny because I couldn't find my mobile phone, and then I realized someone had it, but it was completely clear of all my contacts. Everyone I knew was not on the phone. There was nothing. It was completely new phone. So you can make of that what you will. But it's interesting that it's all tying into what I think is now this whole awakening, this shift that's going on, and we're all being prepared for it. That's the thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah. And, I've been saying for quite some time about, or at least for 10 days, and certainly in the last 2 days, about lucid dreams. Like, they've been coming in so clear. There's more than one every night. They're just so clear. I told Morgan a while ago, because I was telling about the one I had last night, and I said, I can't even call it a dream. It was a reality. And in that dream, so her and I kind of 0 pointed masculine and feminine last night. And it was just unintentional, like everything is, it just happened. And it was so mind blowing. I had to go lay in the bathroom. I thought I was going to throw up, and then I heard, you're going to be fine. It was just too much for your body. That's, all this light coming in basically. But the other thing I find, because when in that dream, I was sitting like from here to the screen talking to her outside, and it was like in the dream, the same distance, the same everything. I could see everything just as clear. It was very physical. It wasn't just that dreamy, etheric kind of feeling. Okay, so then the butterfly thing. Now, you've been doing this a long, long time, and I've probably been researching stuff since 2011. And I don't do it so much anymore, but I like to stay on top of stuff. There's certain people I follow, and I just like to keep my mind, full of information. But what I was going to say is, and this is after watching a lot of Project Camelot and a lot of different stuff that provides more wide open material. I've never heard anything about butterfly ETs ever. But here we are, and these kids, I mean, the information these kids have is mind blowing. It's absolutely mind blowing. So, and then I think of the butterfly. the metaphor.
Yeah.
You know, maybe this is our, I don't know, maybe these are our new aspects or something. I don't know. But it sounds pretty cool to me.
The fact that I'm finding I'm having a lot more lucid dreams, that I can literally remember the details of them,
Yeah.
and what, and they stay with me. It's not like, you know, I forget them within a few minutes or whatever. But that one was particularly significant about what I thought was a hospital, probably not a hospital at all, of course, something quite different. Who knows? But the whole point is that for the birth of this, I needed some extra input.
Yes.
So, but all of this has been happening at the same time, getting the information. And you know, we know about synchronicities, that, you know, information's coming in as we need it. As the next thing's happening, the information comes from all different sources. But the butterfly thing, particularly, and two other things were interesting for me, was I was outside and one of the butterflies literally landed on me and just didn't want to go. It's like, okay, so you really are telling me, telling me something. And one even got trapped on my car bumper, and it was actually trapped because there were clouds of them, literally clouds. But the little boy, and he's done two drawings, one of several of the butterfly men, but one of the room that he was in where he's being taught by these butterfly beings, these intelligences. And this is all, you know, in the last few weeks, I'm getting this information.
Wow.
You know, so for me, I don't really need much more other than the fact I know that we're in something really huge at the moment. And it's like, you know, just take one day at a time, because you really don't know what tomorrow is going to bring.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I was saying, I think, how can anyone on this planet not, if they're not feeling it yet, if they're not consciously going, hey, what's going on here? I mean, at every level, with this situation, with the COVID, it's affected every single everything. So everybody's had some type of alteration to their field of consciousness. And because there's a commonality in it, you know, the fear of catching something and death and, you know, compliance and injustice and all the things that are floating around, like all the crap is coming up, you know, so, but I can't see how at some point there would just be somebody puts their hands in the air and says, hey, here's what we know. Here's what I know. Here's what my government knows, or here's what my organization knows. There's something going on that's bigger than all of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether anyone's aware, and certainly some of your audience might be aware of Daryl Anka and Bashar. Bashar in December of 2019, as he came through, they asked him about 2020. And he said, to use your vernacular, he says 2020 is going to be absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And he said, so it's important that you keep in the eye of the storm, to keep your centeredness and whatever. Wow. And that so resonated for me, because this is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely nuts at the moment. I mean, I make a joke and say it's like a really bad B-grade movie in a way, because you can't believe what's actually going on. It's like, I don't know if I can handle this. And I was talking to my brother in France last night, and where he lives near Paris, and he said, well, Mary, I can't go beyond the red zone. And I said, what? And he said, well, I'm in the red zone, so I can't go beyond the red zone, because he's just outside Paris. And I just couldn't help laughing, because it just seems so bizarre, doesn't it? You know, it's like, what are you telling me? You know, are you sure this is this reality? But so I would say to people listening to this, you really have got to retain your sense of humor in a way, because otherwise it is just beyond belief, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think the sense of humor is actually a necessary ingredient, because if you don't have that, and we've all been there, then you do get caught up in everything. You know, right before, when I thought we weren't going to do a show, I just thought, and I thought Morgan was taking a nap. So I just started watching videos, and I pull up a couple of different sites that I watch. And I saw a couple of things, people getting arrested because they're not wearing masks. I thought, oh, well, the previous couple of days to that, when I had some spare time, I found myself looking at like press conferences and different things where there were speakers, mostly politicians, and I was watching them, and it was so B movie-ish. Just like you said, it was weird because I was looking at him and thinking, "Oh my God, you're acting," and the acting's actually horrible. So it was that same cartoonish kind of thing, or even what I might see when I go to the grocery store. But I think you're absolutely right. It's getting to the point where it just it doesn't make sense. It can't. There's something else that's beating. There's another vibration that's beating, that's superseding it, that may be unfamiliar, but it's dominant. It's gaining dominance, basically.
Well, I think the wonderful thing about what's happening now is it's forcing people to, and giving them the time to actually see what's not working. Because we're all, so many people are on that treadmill every day that they don't really see what's happening. They're being forced to be still. They're being forced to look at themselves, look at their life, look at what makes sense, and realizing, there is so much that isn't working. So it's given them the time, whether or not that was the idea or not, but it's giving them the time to actually say, hold on a minute, this isn't making any sense. It's not logical. There's no common sense to this. Not that common sense is common, but it certainly doesn't seem to be with our government, etc. But the bottom line is, it's giving people a time to actually look at that and see what's important, and and start to work out the consequences of that, where they may not have done if they were still on the treadmill. So in that sense, I think it's been an extremely positive thing.
That kid was right. It is or the butterfly family. I mean, it is a reset, and we've talked about reset. I remember when I met Morgan in 2015, and 2 or 3 months into my Ascension education, because I didn't know anything about it. I knew something was going on, but I didn't know it was actually had communities and stuff. She'd say the number one word at this point is reset. So at any time you can reset, because I found myself going up and down and up and down, and there was so much stuff you deal with. Just push the reset button. But I guess, I'm so intrigued by the work that you do, because I know it's taken on a lot of different subjects and areas. But this thing with the kids, like, I talk to you and I think, well, she's obviously a conduit somehow or another, pulling in and other things. But I mean, these kids, one way or the other, I wonder how many more there is. I wonder how many pockets, how many Marys are out there that know 4 or 5 of these kids. And if you've already gotten to a point where you've coordinated private group meetings with professionals who are waking up and don't want to go public, then how much longer will it be before a Mary on the planet says, hey, there's other Marys, let's put these kids together? Because that information that they have is probably, well, it's a download. It's an activation. It's a shift in itself, especially if it takes on, a great number of people and they're exposed to it.
I think for me, the important thing has been not only to support the children and connect them, as I've only just done that recently, to 2 10-year-old boys that live not too far away, because both of them have felt very isolated. And this particular young lad who talked about the reset just wants to talk and be with another child that understands this awareness because of their own awareness and what have you. So I was able to connect the 2 families, and I got a lovely little video today with them both. Hi, Mary, because they'd actually connected and started playing being together and what have you. That is the start. This needs to happen, and there's another conscious youth that's over the internet, where the ages are from 8 or 9 to 16, where these children are connecting. A Vera facilitator, beautiful lady, who is giving them the opportunity to share what's going on for them and how it is for them. But when I facilitated a family group when I was in the States at ESETI, I remember the parents actually needed as more support in a way than the children. They were in this dilemma of, you know, conventional school not working for them, the children feeling very, very isolated and struggling with conventional school and saying, you know, what can I do? Or they may have a partner that doesn't get it. And they're trying to, you know, say to them, look, this is important for this child, but the partner's still not aware enough to understand this. Or a grandparent that's saying, my grandchild is this, but the parents don't understand what's going on. So a lot of the time, Todd, for me, it's about, and why I wrote The New Human was part of that, was to put out this information and see where it lands. And what I found is that this is global. I mean, I've got, you know, interest in the book on at least 4 or 5 different languages now that I'm looking at. You know, one's from Chinese, believe it or not. One Taiwan, it's already going to be published in Japanese. I've got it in Hungary and France and possibly Germany. What I'm getting, this is global. That's my point.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's resonating with more and more people as they're seeing their children and perceiving their difference. And again, they're given the labels, ADHD, you know, Asperger's, some form of autism or dyslexia or whatever. And they're saying that they're different and they seem to see more and experience more and whatever. So it's about giving the parents the information to understand what's going on. But I've got clinical psychologists that see it and saying, I'm in a conventional professional arena. It's very difficult because I'm seeing these kids and I'm trying to work out how best to support them in a conventional environment where I've got to be very I've got to edit my language.
Yeah.
Because I know the kids get it, but maybe the parents are still very torn between the mainstream narrative and also sensing there's something else going on with their kids. So we're almost on the cusp of that information. I hope that there will be that shift where suddenly, just like a lot of things, you reach that kind of 100th monkey point where people are saying, of course, you know, just like the reality of UFOs is, well, it's coming out now slowly in drip feeds. But there are so many people writing books on their stories now, credible people right across the professions that are saying, I've got to come out now. And they're being given that kind of shove. I was talking to one only a couple of days ago, a professional lady saying, I've been told I've got to come out. I've got to talk about it. Just got to talk about it. I can't not do it now. You know, I've collected a group of doctors, MDs, all over the planet who all have incredible experiences, but feeling really isolated as a medical professional and saying, well, it's about time you're all connected. So I actually said, right, who's ready to connect with a colleague, you know, that's having these experiences? And I did that deliberately because the more people can connect with others that get it, the more empowered and stronger we're going to be. And this is all about that. It's connecting frequencies to create then that community of support so that we're no longer feeling isolated and we can own our truth, own actually who we are. And this is, to me, vital now.
Yeah. And truth, that's a good way to put it too, man, because truth, if you look at it energetically, frequency wise, truth is like a, you know, it can penetrate through any implants, any GMO, any type of metals. I mean, this is truth frequency. It's going to, I watch it happen every day with what I do. When people just tell the truth and because that's pure love. That's just me. That's to thy knows to be true. And they put it out there. It does something. I watch it. It activates people. It opens up code in them. And these kids, back to the kids thing, I mean, they have information. I don't think we get that. And they actually have information. It's not something you can really explain or quantify, on the human level. It's coming from the same thing that got us into the door. It's coming through that same source, but they came in with it where we're having to be in the low density and then pull it up after our traumas and all the stuff we've been through, whatever. But they're clean. And just for a child a soul, a 10-year-old soul, to say, look, this is who I'm talking to. This is the room that I was in. This is what they told me. I mean, this is vital information for everyone.
And the other thing that comes with that, I've just done a wonderful panel discussion with Grant Cameron and a number of people speaking the light languages and the star languages. And
wow.
I played two of mine, one from a 5-year-old that does the scripts and speaks the star language, and another one, an 8-year-old. The interesting thing with the 5-year-old, when I played it, it was quite interesting to see the response. But she also translated it and then did the symbols that were the same thing. And I've presentation. But the bottom line is that is now being understood from those speaking it about, the frequencies, the codes that are coming in, the activation that's coming in with it. But when you get children spontaneously coming out with these languages, and I always remember this 9-year-old and his mother saying, my son speaks light language to me and I speak light language back. But the difference is he knows what he's saying to me. And I haven't got a clue what I'm saying.
It comes. Hey, I've never really spoken much light language. Morgan does. You never see her doing it in public, but when it comes, right? Yes. And so it came in last night, and I'm telling you, she talked to me for 20 minutes. And it was the first time I understood every single thing from the first word to the last word. Absolutely 100%. I because I don't speak it or whatever, it's not part of my makeup. I can appreciate the different dialects. I can pick up energy, but I understand now, especially after last night, what that is. The language itself isn't the phonics of it. It's the interject and the energy of it. It's like light, basically. So if kids are doing it, this other thing about these kids is with the things that they're coming into, it's just more proof that we're not all crazy. Right? They're as credible as you can get. I mean, that's what I'm getting at.
Well, the interesting thing is you're always going to get the skeptics that saying, the parents front loaded them in some way or got them because they're interested in it. And I absolutely refute that, because when I talk to the parents, I ask them, do they talk about this? And they'll say, no, I've never in front of them. It's not, they're very aware of the responsibility of not influencing them in that kind of a way. They're very careful not to. These are children that are doing this spontaneously and talking about coming from somewhere else. When I recall this other 10-year-old that lives in Western Australia telling his mother that he comes from a planet, a blue planet, and he is actually a blue being, and he drew what he looked like in that other life and explained this was his very first incarnation as a human. And he was explaining that he was a center seed, that he was connecting with the center of the planet, and he'll be dealing with the pollution. That's his mission, to deal with the pollution of this planet. And he's one that he said quite consciously can see interdimensionally. He is able to perceive the dimensions and what have you. So, these children are yes, we can say, we look at psychic or intuitive. This is a whole new level. Understanding where they're talking about recognizing coming in. And this 10-year-old from Brazil also did a drawing of a ET being, and these drawings of these several in front of the being which looked like luminescent souls. He drew this and said that was me, and they're choosing where we go. was what he was saying. He'd got several of them, and they'd used kind of luminescent paint to say, these are the souls, and this being is choosing where we go. And he remembered that as part of coming into being human, and did the drawing, you know.
So their intel sounds very galactic.
It absolutely is
very galactic, and so that is a totally different. Well, you were talking about earlier here on Earth, where it's like there's another timeline coming in, so it's almost like that is mirroring what's happening. I mean, this is, you know, we have psychics, we have mediums, we have people that channel and connect, but you're talking about memory, you know. So hopefully that'll expand. Hopefully that's a you know, a sign of what's going to come to all of us, because that would make sense, that we would remember more and more and more.
I think this is part of the activation of the dormant DNA, is that we're accessing more and more of who we are. That includes the inserts of various star families, which would be Pleiadian, Andromedan, Orion, all of the Sirius, and other ones interdimensionally that have brought their soul essence as part of their DNA makeup holographically. So what's happening as we're activated with those frequencies, it's slowly activating more and more of our galactic DNA, so that we are becoming more and more like our ancestors, the family.
Yeah.
Our galactic family.
I wonder if that's happening, and I totally believe it is, that, you know, and everything that goes with it. So the you know, carbon-based body to a light body, to the telepathy, everything. So and Mother Earth is conscious, is just like we are, you know, and as is everything else. And we're paralleling her own expansion. So I wonder if part of this thing, like when you talk to your team, they said, we can't explain it to you because you'll never understand it at this point. I wonder if the kind of change is going to be so immense, like the things that we worry about, oh, we've got to clean up the planet, we've got to do this and got to do that, and rightfully so, that because of the energetic expansion of the Earth, of the people of the Earth, and so on, that those things would transform themselves just based on the collective transformation taking place. You know what I mean? I mean, things like that. I think if your team and other people have picked up, you know, we can't tell you because you'll never understand it. I mean, who knows? We could all be, you know, sprouting wings in 2 months, and, you know, and things would be a whole lot different, right?
I think the sense is exactly that we still haven't the comprehension yet to understand what our part is in all of that, but everything is gaining more consciousness. Was the understanding that everything from animals to plants also affected by this shift in consciousness, and so we're all evolving. Whatever life form or sentience that's here is also evolving. So, you know, it is and what, as we get activated, and I often mention the film Lucy, for those, the story of Lucy really on another level is all about activation of the DNA, and as she becomes more and more multidimensional, she becomes light in the end, of course, with that is beyond anything we can understand. But I believe that this is now that activation, that we're being prepared, and a lot of the downloads that are more like compressed files of information, because some of the language, I was told by a 7-year-old, by the way, that she could translate some of the languages, but some were not translatable, she told me, because they were packets of compressed information that others have said it's like even one symbol would fill the room with encyclopedias in terms of information, just one symbol, multidimensionally. I think these are coming in as the software for the new upgrade human, because we're going to need a new map to translate and work in our greater reality, because the one we've got now will not work because of the So we're
No.
going to need that.
We're like transistor radios walking around. Some of us, and you've got all this you know modern computer stuff. Do you remember computers 20, 30, 40 years ago? They were giant machines and all that stuff. But 7 years old, a 7-year-old told you that. Wow. That's amazing. It must be an activation in itself, just dealing with or interacting with these children for you.
I believe every interaction that I have with anyone that's tapping into their awareness and whatever, there's a flow of codes, there's a flow of frequencies, which you retain energetically. All of us, when we hear stuff, we take on that code and that information, that frequency. So wherever we go, we're doing the same thing with others that are opening up. So there's this kind of transfer of codes going right across the planet of various forms. And I was, and I'll tell a little story to you about that, because I was told, and this is some years ago now, because I said, look, guys, team, I'm getting all this information coming in. I'm getting all these scripts, people talking to me in the languages and showing me, the artwork, which also triggers, the music that also triggers. I can only show a small amount on my PowerPoint. I can't possibly do this justice. And they were saying, but don't you realize, Mary, what you're putting out is enough, because you are embodying those frequencies. As soon as you hear them, as soon as you're exposed to them, they're part of your energetic hard drive. So wherever you go, you're taking that with you. And I said, oh, come on, guys, that sounds a little bit, I was really struggling with that a little bit. And they said, but we'll show you, because I always ask for validation. Less than a week, I was at a conscious expo, and I was in a panel. And I wasn't really saying a great deal when this woman in the audience stands up and says, Mary, I've got to tell you this. And everybody stops, and the panelist stops. And she said, you're sitting there and you're not saying anything, but you are beaming all these frequencies at us.
Wow.
That was, and I was spooked by it, because it was like I'd only just heard less than a week ago from the team that, and this is not just me, this is everyone.
Of course.
Work is carrying the codes that they've downloaded, and also they're interchanging them with everyone else that is opening up to this. So we're the virus.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's like I hope people don't get the wrong impression, but it's like organic AI. it's like beehive mentality, beehive intelligence, like a big sponge, and everybody's connected. So you're telling me this after this incredible stream of shows that we've had, and so I'm picking up stuff with each one of these shows, and I'm talking to you, and I'm just seeing the speed at which this is not can take place, but that's actually taking place. I mean, imagine just the kid part alone. Imagine, a year or two from now, and that may be too long, but so if there's X number of kids working with facilitators today and starting to come together, where will that number be in 6 months? And if that's the case, because if for each one of those that connect, something big happens. Think about that collective energy that they're carrying. I mean, this is just like, nothing's out, literally nothing's outside the realm of possibilities here. I mean, we could all be walking on an earth in a few weeks where nobody even eats food. I mean, it could be all kinds of stuff, because this information is moving at warp speed. It's beyond warp speed.
Exactly. And this is what still blows my mind, is the possibilities that opens up when you realize this is for me, absolutely tangible in
Yeah.
the sense of I'm seeing it, just meeting with different, I mean, I'm sure many of your audience, by meeting someone or hearing certain information that activates another part. And it may not be a star language. It may be they're seeing some artwork that they've produced. They're bringing the frequencies through in the artwork as well. I remember a young man who's a brilliant artist telling me, and I wrote about him in The New Human, he said to me, Mary, my artwork is to activate perception and broaden perception, because he said he came from another dimension and his work was to create artwork with the frequencies to activate consciousness. So he was absolutely aware of what he was bringing through. That was the mandate for him as an artist. And you've got the musicians that are downloading the frequencies, and you can feel it. You listen to music and your whole body, it's like, and I'm thinking, another one. I sort of look like, another one. That's how I sort of work out who's who now. I just have to hear or feel the frequency.
Yeah.
Come in.
And the thing with the chills lately too, just like in the last 10 days, I've been getting, and a lot of it's on the show, but I don't know, but if it's been body wide. It's not like my arm, it's my whole body just lights up, and I'm like, okay, something's going on. And it's usually just the truth frequency, basically, from what I can gather anyway. Wow.
Yeah. So it's absolutely fascinating. And I think I did mention to you that about he was only 11 then, but he was one of these young children who had been up on board a craft where he said they were doing something to the DNA using frequencies, and it was all about his DNA. He then, within a week, was given, he said, I've got to play this. And he was learning piano. He would just give her a title and say, this is what I've got to play. Record it, Mum. And one of them is activation. It was activating DNA. Another one was called Arrival. Another one was on meditation. There were 6 songs, and they all came within just over a week, where he brought these through. And I spoke to him only about a few months ago. He's now nearly 15. And he said, I was talking about how people really wanted to hear all of them, because I promised him I would only play a bit of one. And he said, Mary, I'm prepared to let them have this now. He said, before I was worried about it because I knew it was extremely powerful and people need to be ready for it. So he'd had this real sense that there was a responsibility with what he'd been given. And he was actually quite concerned about that responsibility. And I said, well, the people that will want those 5 or 6 songs, I said, will be the ones that are ready. So he gave me permission then to for those that were interested, that I could actually, give them his mother's contact details for that. And I mean, that's just one example of
exactly
how incredible this is, and how our children have come in as avatars. They've come in really, as one 8-year-old said, to teach us humans. They've come in as teachers. It really is a reversal of roles.
I know. I agree with you. Now, I used to say that, but sometimes you say things and they don't have the depth of, they don't, your understanding doesn't go deep enough. Now, talking to you, and yeah, absolutely. It's almost like if the timeline was totally changed right now, let's just say, and it was lucid dreamish, or etheric-ish, it was like in dimension, and it just shifted. I mean, what group would be the one that would have the least amount of adjustment? It would be the kids. They would just keep on going down the road pretty much. Right. And I guess in a sense, that's what's happening. It's just at a very slow motion to the human. But that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, they're going to be teaching us. So I guess we'll have to grow younger. I'm hoping this body doesn't wear out before that regeneration comes in. Somebody did ask, and I guess they could contact, what's his name and how can they listen to the music? I mean, so it's still pretty early in the development of that, or is there some
No,
place?
they put them onto a CD. All they need to do is send me an email and I'll pass that on. I'll pass
Okay.
them on to the mother who's got them. And she also, what was so beautiful about this young man, he said he's put a charge on it so that he can send the money to South America, because I think he's got a charity there that he wants to send any funds that come from it to South America. So just to let people know, this is,
My gosh,
of
15 years old.
Yes, he's now 15. Yeah, but this was when he was 11.
Yeah.
Well, he was aware of his DNA being altered on board craft. He said they had a machine and they were altering his DNA. And then he started to bring in these songs, as he called them. And there was no thought beforehand. He just knew he had to get his mum to record them, and said, this is what this is called. And then he.
God. And the parents, I mean, when you are the kids find you, I mean, do the parents need therapy? I mean, like, you know, I mean, I could.
The parents find me primarily, but what's interesting is often the teenagers are the ones that will find me, the ones that have got on the internet and know what to look for or whatever.
Oh, really? Wow.
And what's interesting about the teenagers, I remember one 15-year-old that was in a really difficult place because her parents had a very orthodox religion. And she said, I'm writing to you because I don't know what else to do. I know I'm a starseed. She said, I'm very aware of my origin. She said, and their religion doesn't fit for me at all. And I want to try and tell them I'm different. I want to be able to explain to them, but it's too hard because they're so entrenched in their belief system. They just wouldn't understand. And I feel like I'm in a prison, she said, because I don't know where to go with this. And I tried to encourage her to start the dialogue, because obviously the more the child can connect with the parent, one or both at least, so they don't feel so isolated with it. But the other thing I did say to her was, look, just become as informed as you can so that you can find the language eventually that maybe your parents can understand. But this can be so severe. I had a young gentleman of 20 whose parents again were very entrenched in their belief system, and another one that was saying, I'm a starseed, but I can't devastate my parents. They would be devastated because they're so religious that, you know, if I told them this, they would just be I can't hurt them, because he loved his parents dearly. He said, but I have to tell you that I've considered taking my own life because it's been so difficult. And I said to him, look, I've got a minister of religion who has been living with this for 40 years as a minister of a Christian-based religion. I can connect him with you, but I never heard any more, because I thought it would be good for him to talk to someone who had that similar dilemma, only it was to do with his parish. The fact that he said, I mean, this is a lovely gentleman I mentioned also in my book about the conflict this can bring to someone who, particularly if that's your profession, you know, you're a minister of a Christian-based belief, but you remember certain past lives and ET contact. And as he said, you know, he felt he's been a hypocrite all his life because he hadn't owned his truth, and now he was determined to do that. A beautiful, beautiful gentleman. And the bottom line is that this is what we're facing now, is this conflict of belief systems, of the narrative, you know, and how do we help those that perhaps are struggling to open up to I mean, look at what we're talking about. You know, there are people that will listen to this from a more mainstream narrative and think, well, they're all off their heads. You know, they're bonkers.
Yeah, but Yeah, but that's the thing, and you kind of have your foot in both, and that's one are professionals that can't be out in public. So when that gate opens, you're going to have credibility from what society looks at as a stable, I've got a degree, I've got a master's, PhD, whatever. So you got a whole group there. It's kind of like that group of architects and engineers after 9/11 that formed. And that was really brought some credibility to the what the government or the establishment saw as the opposition. But and then you have the children, and I don't know how people now, if it was one or two kids, that's different. But to have a number of children that are saying the same thing, there's a tremendous amount of credibility with that. And the younger the better. Like how are you gonna contend with a 7-year-old telling you something in that kind of detail? I mean, that's like some of the people that come on the show. That's the kind of work they do for people. And there's a 7-year-olds doing this. Yeah.
I
So
mean, I've always said that with a child, they're coming with their truth.
yeah.
You know, it's not some, and people say, oh well, haven't they got amazing imaginations? You don't come up with this kind of information,
No.
imagination.
No.
And I said, parents are not stupid. They know when the child is coming up with something they're fantasizing about, creating,
Yeah.
again, a real experience that they're understanding. I've got a video of a lovely 6-year-old where he's holding a meteorite, and as he's holding it, he's saying, the meteorite is telling me where it comes from, where it landed, and how it feels about various things and whatever. And the mother's saying to him, so how do you know that? How does the meteorite speak to you? He said, oh, it speaks to me in my mind, and it's telling me. So,
and so then you have, two, whatever, 1900 episodes, you have a lot of people coming on here and talking about when they were a kid and they would go out and tell their parents there's some beans in my room, and they'd be like, oh, go back to sleep. So this is saying another thing, because now you've got kids that confide in their parents, and one or more of those parents is supporting and nurturing this truth in their child. It's not being suppressed.
yeah.
So that's a good sign too. No, this is just, you've like blown my mind today. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Morgan says you're a soul mother. I'd say that's probably exactly right.
I've been told that a few times.
Yeah.
And I was a midwife, which is interesting when you look at the birthing of
Yes.
little ones, which I've always adored. And I was a special care nurse for a number of years on the premature baby unit and loved it. Just loved looking after all these little tiny beautiful souls. And I suppose in a way, I've been called the mothership. I've been called a lot of things to do with the mother. And a beautiful lady that I know said, oh, of course, Mary, you do know that when you go out of body, you're preparing a lot of these new souls, and teaching them how to be on earth, how to operate on earth. So it looks like I'm pretty busy when I go out of body as well, and trying to prepare these poor souls for planet Earth. I'm not so sure that they would thank me for that at the end of the day.
I don't know. I think it's getting easier now. I think the ones coming in now are in. Yeah, it's a little bit different now. Not that we won't be, our efforts won't be reciprocated, and maybe that's what part of that is, these children coming into our lives. And because you would think that we worked all of us, and got to a certain point, and then there would still be an element of exertion there, but maybe they're going to come in and take it over and just say, we got you. Y'all kick back and go out to the beach and take it easy. Yeah, this is getting good. Yeah, I'm already ready to talk to you again. Like, maybe quicker, because God, it really, it's making me realize too how much it's changed. I think we talked 6 weeks ago. maybe 8 weeks ago. And God, it's like, this is like I don't know. Maybe it's just the collective energy that, I'm feeling and that's coming through on these shows. So, do you have anything coming up or anything that you want to spread awareness about? You got any online stuff? I don't know if you're doing anything conference wise with what's going on.
I'm not traveling at the moment because of what's
Yeah.
happening. I have been invited next year to come to Contact in the Desert in June again, and also an Ancient Aliens cruise in March from Florida, I think, at old Cape Canaveral or something. I've agreed to. I hope I don't regret that.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a different world by then. There's no doubt. An Ancient Aliens cruise. I mean, that could just be. Yeah, that could just. I have a feeling it's going to be. We're not the only ones laughing. That's what I'm getting at. That our teams are laughing too, because I know. That's one thing I will say. As fast as it's moving, as I don't want to say up and down in a bad way, because it's not like it was in 2019 or before. But one thing remains certain with me: the feeling, the knowing that it's only getting better and better and better, no matter what I do, no matter where I sit, focus my attention, whether I'm being in alignment or I'm not being in alignment. I just feel every day things get better and better and better. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we've come down knowing that we were going to make a difference. And I've always said that the children, with their awareness, wouldn't come down for a waste of time. They would already know it was worth it.
Yeah.
And my personality as a soul, I'd have probably said, you want me to work my butt off, but nothing's going to happen at the end of it. Sorry, find someone else to do it. So I'm pretty certain I must have felt satisfied that something was going to actually eventuate on this planet. And that is, for me, an absolute. So
yeah, I agree.
You can take it as you like, really.
It's going to be a hell of a party. That's all I could say. Hell of an after party. I want to get your book. I'm sure others will too. The New Human. Where can we get it?
Well, if you're in Australia, you can get it directly from me. Okay. But if you're overseas, the cheapest way to do it is through Amazon.
Amazon? Okay.
You can get it from there. It will be the most financially, the cheapest way for you to do it, because it costs so much to send from Australia.
Okay.
So yes, and same with Awakening. They're both on Amazon.
And do you, and I know I asked you this last time, but now you work with the children, and I know you do some other work. Do you actively even have to pursue like session work at all, or do you pretty much?
I don't actively do it because I'm inundated, but yes.
I was going to say, yeah.
Sessions. And again, the great thing with technology is that I can do the sessions whether you're in Europe or US or UK. I do it globally anyway, where somebody is. It's not a problem whether or not it's a session to open themselves up some more and understand more of their abilities, or they want to explore some of their experiences or whatever. Okay. So absolutely.
Patricia's asking for the link. Morgan put up Mary's email a minute ago, and we'll get the link if they're in Australia, they could email you.
Yeah,
and then, okay. So we'll put it in there. We'll put the email for Australia, and we'll put the Amazon link for everyone else. So I just bring this up too because I just want to point out that Mary has been doing this for a very long time, back before people even knew what the hell was going on. So you're talking about putting in the work. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody for what you've done. It's not like we're saying goodbye, but I mean, because I'd love to continue to collaborate with you in the future. But yeah, thank you for what you've done. And I'm happy for you, because I know with just looking at you tonight, you're glowing, and it must be exciting to you, to finally see this is occurring.
I think it is the most heartening thing to know finally people are waking up. And that to me is why I came to this planet, this to be part of that.
Me too.
So thank you also, Todd, for your hard work in what you're doing, because you're waking so many up through what you're doing.
Well, I don't know why my heart's expanding. I feel like I'm going to have a heart. It's fluttering. This has just been a powerful moment. And what else can you say about it? Everybody on the live and the replay, let's support these ladies that have been doing this work for so long. And, you know, visit, let's make some purchases to Mary's book. And if anybody needs to get in touch with her, hit me up. We'll have her email and the link on the comments on all 3 pages in YouTube. Just so you know. Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. And sorry about the mix up. It's my fault. It was all perfect. Yeah, it was all perfect. And 1 minute and 11 seconds, 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds we've been on. So there you go. See you later. Bye-bye.